Hi, this is Brian Aldrich from 4th Street Software, and today I'm going to show you around the draft module a little bit here for the 4th Street hockey game. Alright, so first of all, as you can see, I've loaded up the 2006-2007 season, played a few games. I can see what those scores are over here, but I'd like to work with the rosters here a little bit and show you how to do that. There's two ways to get into the module. One is to use the toolbar icon for team management. The other is under the options screen, and you can choose draft. They're the same exact items. Okay, so after a little bit of business of sorting out players and kind of analyzing anybody available, it's now ready for use. And as you can see, I've got Philadelphia's roster here up right now. So they're the active team. If I'd like someone else, I can just drop this drop down and find somebody else like Phoenix. But let's go back to Philadelphia for right now. The left-hand side of the screen is the player list. So all the players that played during the 2006-2007 season are listed in this list. If they have an arrow in front of their name, as you can see all of them do in this case, they are unavailable at the current time for being drafted. And that makes sense because all these players have been placed on their original rosters. Okay, on the right-hand side, we have a similar list. This is just for the team. So this is Philadelphia's roster right now. It's got more players than you can see at one time, so we need to scroll down. There's enough positions here that you could actually place 100 players on the roster. At the same time, of course, you wouldn't want to dress that many. The bench would be a little full, but it is possible to load the roster here with quite a few. At the bottom, you'll see something a little bit weird too. This really isn't an actual player. It's just an emergency goalie. Occasionally, if a few goalies get injured on your team, you're going to need to pull one out of the stands to put on the ice. And this is Philadelphia's emergency goalie. Doesn't really have a name. Doesn't really need one, and it doesn't happen very often. Alright, so a couple other little things. You can see a snapshot of the performance the player had during the season. So if we get on to Alfredson here, we can see that he played in almost all the games, scored 29 goals. His ratings are in the second row there. So his pass rating is 18, which is very good. Skating rating is 19, which is excellent. And so on and so forth down the row there. And it's got some special team statistics there too. So his power play time on ice was .212. He did a lot of shorthanded work too. Scored 7 power play goals and 2 shorties. Alright, the same thing will pop up here on the other side. So here's Todd Fedoruk. If I want to get a closer look at what Fedoruk looks like, I can click on his name and hit the display button. And this shows you a little pop-up of what his player card looks like in the board game version, which this game is based upon. So it uses the same ratings. On the other hand, if I'd like to get a closer look at Alfredson, I can do the same thing. Just select his name, hit display, and sure enough, all of his ratings and numbers and columns are generated there. Okay, now let's do a little roster management here. And as you can see, I don't have any players available right now. If I don't believe the computer, I suppose I can look through it a little bit. This is kind of just a little scroll bar which allows me a closer look through the alphabet. They're all in alphabetical order. Or I can go ahead and use this little tab to jump to different places in the alphabet. Or I can do a search. So if I want to look for the Koivu boys, I can go ahead and do that. And sure enough, there's Mikko and Saku. Alright, but again, if I try to add Saku to Philadelphia, I'm not going to be able to do it right now because he's not available, as was told by this little arrow over here. Let's pick out a player and remove him from the roster so you can see what it looks like if he were available. Here's Eric Malash. And I can dispose of him off the roster in two ways. I can either hit the remove button, in which case now he pops up as available on the other side. Let's put him back on by adding him. Okay, so here's Malash down here. There he is. Or I can just double click on his name and it'll do the same thing. So it made him available. And now I'm going to click again and it'll put him back on. One thing to remember with this is if you were to remove a player, you'll also remove him from all the preset lines that you have made and pairings. So you have to be a little bit careful with that. That's why I chose Malash, because he only played in 13 games. And it's not likely that he's even on a line at this point. He's probably a backup player. Okay, let's put Malash back there, and this time instead of removing him from the roster by the conventional means, let's trade him to another team. So I'm going to click on Malash, and I'd like to trade him to Colorado. We're going to put him out in the mountains somewhere. So I'm going to hit the trade button, and you can see this drop down changed a little bit. It's been activated. And if I scroll down and find Colorado, it will automatically move him from Philadelphia to Colorado. If I want to check to make sure that he's now there, I can go to Colorado's roster, scroll down, and sure enough, here's Eric Malash. Okay, let's trade him back to Philadelphia so I don't forget to do it later on. There we go, and then we'll go back to Philadelphia. And Mr. Malash is sitting right down here, so my right winger. Alright, so that's just a little bit about how to get around here a little. As you can see, there is another function here for editing a player. So if you want to take a closer look at what Malash looks like in his computer codes, you can click on that. There's another way to get there too, but we won't worry about that at the moment. And as you can see, it's kind of a mess. It's a hodgepodge of his statistics. Over here is the same information that's generated from the display that we saw earlier. And so on and so forth. But that's kind of out of the focus of what we're looking at here right now. Alright, you may have also noticed there is an auto draft button here. I'm not going to use that quite yet because I don't have any players available anyway. So let's go back here and take a look at a different league. And before I started this program up, I put a second league in to the organizations menu, the Barnstormer League. There are only two teams there, the Atlanta Bruisers and the Minnesota Fighting Saints. Let's take a look at Minnesota. Those are terrible team colors, but we'll go with it. So here we are, and there's the Saints, and because I have not touched this league yet, every single player is available. The top available players are listed up here at the top according to the computer program. It's only going to list a few of them each time, just for those of us who have a short attention span. But I can go ahead and select one of those players if I want to. So if I want to find Danny Heatley, I can go ahead and do that, and like I showed you earlier, I can go ahead and put him on to the Fighting Saints. I'm going to remove him though and get rid of him. Now the auto draft button will go ahead and select one player for this team, and right now it's going to take a look at any available player and pick the best one. So as we see, Heatley is regarded as being the top available player here. He had a heck of a season. As you can see, he scored 50 goals that year and had 105 points. I can go ahead and click the auto draft, and it'll buzz through a few little things before plopping Heatley on the roster. Okay, now if I want to pick another one, by the way, you may have noticed it reset the top available list. Because of that, I can go ahead and choose another player. And Sidney Crosby was selected, even though Vanek was at the top of the list. And that's because the program looked and took a little bit of look at the needs of the Fighting Saints, even though they had only one player, and decided Crosby might be a little bit better fit for them. Okay, now I'm going to purge this roster here. So I'm going to go into the draft, and release all players from this team. So I'll go ahead and do that. It gives me a little warning. And now Heatley and Vanek are back and available. Now I can populate these rosters more quickly if I want to, instead of just going through manually adding them or using the auto draft. There's some other functions down here too. There's a random draft, which is just that. It's just going to go through and randomly select players. It doesn't look at skill level. It doesn't look at anything else. It just randomly puts teams together. Some may turn out to be terrific teams, and others might not be very well put together. Auto draft one player was exactly the same thing I just showed you. Auto draft to fill rosters is kind of an interesting one. It will do that for the number of rounds listed down here at the bottom. So right now I don't have any rounds selected. Let's just go ahead and put in a couple of rounds. And right now it's going to select the best player available. I'll move that up here though, maybe to round 7, even though I'm only going to do 2 rounds, just to ensure that it works correctly. And I could set some value multipliers here too, to go through this and make left wings a little bit more valuable than centers, for example, or vice versa. I can even set them at a low level, so it doesn't regard a center right now as being very useful. There might be some purposes behind doing that. Before I hit the button here, let's go back. Atlanta was team 1. Minnesota was team 2. So if I go back here, I'm going to choose Atlanta first of all, just to reset it to team 1. What this will do right now, and there's no way to set this yet, I haven't programmed it yet for that. Eventually we'll have a draft order here that you can set manually. But this will go through the teams in order from 1 to 80 and select a player. And if you leave it like that, it does it every single time. So it'll just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 through 80. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 through 80, and so on and so forth. I could, however, select draft serpentine. So it'll go 1, 2, and then 2 and 1. 1, 2, 2, 1, so on and so forth. So it reverses itself every other round. So I'm going to set that, and we're going to get rid of Ovechkin here first of all. So everybody is available. And now we're going to go ahead and draft here. Before I do that, I think I'll release all players from all teams. There aren't any on them anyway, but we'll just make sure. And then we'll just go ahead and select these 2 rounds. So let's set the 2 rounds. We'll do best available at 4. Draft, and we'll go ahead and begin. Okay, it's going to select 2 players by rank for each team. Sure you want to do this? Sure. So we'll let it do its thing, and we'll get a little recording of what's going on. Atlanta picked Ovechkin. Minnesota picked Heatley. Okay, now since we're drafting Serpentine, Minnesota gets the first selection in the second round. It picked Sid Crosby, and then Atlanta picked Vincent Lecavalier after that. And so now we've got a couple of players on our rosters. All right, and that is about it. Now we're in League 2 right now, so one of these is deadened. The automatically place players on original teams. That is only for League 1, and that's already been done, but just to show you that it is an option here. Now it's available for League 1.